We're here 40 years later to talk about an event that took place in our youth.
I had won election as governor about 2.5 years previously, and at the time a lot of people said I was too young and my team was too young. I cited the words of a governor in Missouri who was elected in 1904, Joe Folk. He was 35 at the time, and he said reform is best accomplished by those too young to know it can't be done. And we were too young to know it couldn't be done.
I read in the Post-Dispatch one morning about the fact that the drawings, which had been held by the Mercantile Library since 1868, were going to be sold because the Mercantile Library needed money.
We were having our morning meeting in the governor's office on Monday morning, and Charlie was 20 minutes late, as he always was, because he had to drive in from St. Louis. He came in and broached the subject, and it was met with a thundering lack of enthusiasm. But he convinced me that we ought to do something to save these drawings, because they were going to be auctioned off, and it would be a tragedy to disperse a national treasure like Bingham's sketches.
Miss Jim was the first elephant that was purchased by the St. Louis Zoo in 1916. And my father was a school child in the public school system in St. Louis. And he had given a nickel to buy Miss Jim. If the school children of St. Louis could buy an elephant, then it was not unreasonable to think that the school children of the state of Missouri could help save art. And so it was my idea that we would raise money from the public through a subscription campaign to save the drawings.
So we made the commitment to raise $1.8 million by June 30, 1976. And that's when the battle began. Nancy had worked with Thomas Hart Benton, and we learned that Mr. Benton had a high regard for George Caleb Bingham. His greatest statement about Bingham was that George Caleb Bingham was Missouri's greatest artist, and he and his wife Rita had the first fundraiser at their house on the western edge of Kansas City, and gave us a lot of enthusiasm. Unfortunately, he died a few months later, but he did kick it off and got us on the right track.
Charlie and Kit had gotten grants for exhibitions, and so we had a 7-city tour of the Bingham paintings with the drawings.
Nancy's very modest about this, but setting up a major exhibition in 3 or 4 months is spectacular. We also had a woman who's deceased and who we agreed we were going to mention, Mary Cudanya. And she created a teaching program with slides and for every school in the state of Missouri. Over 300 schools participated, and the schools would concentrate on the kids learning about Bingham. And then they spontaneously decided that they would do something. And so they all set up jars on the teacher's desk. And each day they'd come in and put a nickel or a penny in.
There was a teacher who sent a check for $100, and
it grew to $40,000. And it just, it really overwhelmed me, overwhelmed us. When I went around to all the major corporations to get their contributions, we said, if the school kids can raise $40,000, why can't you give the same? The kids recognized there was a deadline. We had to do it within a certain time or the drawings were gone. When we're about a month away, we're almost $250,000 short. In fact, in the last week, we were $90,000 short. And so what we did was we put together a mailing list of 300,000 people in the state, and we mailed an appeal to them. Well, we got pledges from $1 to the $5,000. Nancy called me one morning and she said, "You better come down here." And there was this big stack of mail, you know, and it had been, the mail people had brought it in, and we dumped it out, and there were hundreds. You know, this was just the first day, and this happened for a week or two. But at the end of the day, that one mailing raised about $300,000. I mean, it's an extraordinary story. I went to the warehouse where the drawings were stored. And I went up in this rickety freight elevator, and they had two great big storage boxes in the middle of the room. And we took the tops off, and the drawings were framed as you see them here. And then here they were in front of me. And I burst into tears because I realized that this was a treasure. This was something irreplaceable. These drawings were our heritage. Bingham was our heritage.
This tells a story for Missourians. It tells a story for art lovers. It tells a vital part of Missouri's history. You can see it and you can view it in Bingham's work and his sketches of the real people of those days and his painting of real-life scenes in Missouri.
I think the paintings also address all of the senses, so we can relate one-on-one. You have them dancing, you have them singing. They're alive. They're masterpieces.